The industrial motor market is quite mature. So in the last year or so, not a lot has changed very structurally. Where we are now, the market has been through what it's going through now many times over. What's interesting, though, is that the macroeconomic factors in the world are quite juxtaposed to how motor manufacturers are currently recognizing their performance. And so what I mean by that is that you have a lot of strong economic indicators that aren't really prevalent to a lot of the suppliers. For example, we're seeing strong growth in North America, especially, as well as the emerging markets and a lot of Southeast Asia. But you'd be hard-pressed to find a motor manufacturer that in the last year or so has been able to recognize strong revenue growth, if any at all. The market has declined quite substantially, and that's continued to be the case. But what's different this year is that there's a lot less uncertainty. So despite a weaker performance in 2017, we have a lot of good signs and reasons to be optimistic for the direction of these suppliers going forward. For example, we've seen a lot of signs of investor confidence growing. The projects business is expected to take off in the next couple of years. And so 2018 could very likely be a stronger year for motor manufacturers. And that wasn't the case at this time last year. There was a lot more uncertainty. And so there's a lot more reason for optimism right now. In North America, NEMA Premium IE3 motors are largely required for most low-voltage applications. This isn't new, but we've seen the region becoming stricter with what can be excluded. And so in the past, where we've seen loopholes may be exploited, that isn't quite the case anymore. Still, there's always going to be areas and applications in which lower efficiency rated products are going to be sold because it's just not practical to regulate every single type of motor. Still, there have been a lot of progress in North America, and Canada and Mexico have also adopted similar policies to what the Department of Energy has done in the United States. Now, a cloud of doubt is kind of surrounding the United States in terms of how these policies are going to be executed necessarily, because the Trump administration has been quite notably big on budget cuts and deregulation. Now, a lot of motor suppliers have already been a part of the negotiations, and a lot of policies have already gone through in the United States. So it's not likely to affect motor suppliers, except for maybe in terms of enforcement and actual overseeing of these policies. Meanwhile, in Europe, the main focus is more on systems efficiency. And so a lot of the policies that are in place focus not just on the motor efficiency, but the whole component. So you're including the drive and maybe what the end equipment is as well. That's important to consider because the regional differences are quite important when you're looking at the global motor market. And then in China, for example, it was expected that IE3 motors were supposed to be mandated in this last year, and that's actually been pushed back. But we expect that to be coming into effect within the next year or two. So that will be interesting to see how that develops, because that's a huge area of opportunity in terms of market opportunity, market sizing, which China makes up there. So all in all, the main change, though, as far as energy efficiency is really in the customer adoption rate. We see it much more prevalent with motor users. They're much more focused on how they can make a difference, both in their pocketbooks and in their effort to contribute to saving the planet. There are many newer tech startups out there that are looking at interesting and unique motor designs. And so you have motor manufacturers that are starting out and claiming that they can attain higher efficiencies than what's mandated. IE3 is a current level that's mandated in many modern regions and developed regions, and a lot of motor suppliers are offering more than that in IE4 motor technologies. Now, that only makes up about 1% of the market, and so it's interesting to see that a lot of suppliers are looking at IE5, IE6, IE7. There's no firm definition of that just yet, but the fact remains that there are motors out there that have really impressive output ratios. Now, I believe that energy efficiency is really only part of the equation. Lately, the industrial automation market, all players involved along the supply chain, have been struggling because of the economic factors, depressed commodity markets, etc. So that means that a lot of a lot of suppliers, a lot of customers have had to really change the way that their operations are. So they're looking for leaner manufacturing, bringing product to market a lot faster, and most importantly, reducing downtime. When you factor all of that in, that's really important because it makes up probably more cost than how much you would save with just more efficient motors. So when you look at increasing the efficiency of a motor by 2 or 3%, it's dwarfed by how much you can save by reducing your downtime by maybe 40 to 60%, for example. So that's where Internet of Things comes in, because the connectivity and the way that these products are working together in a whole system, that's really important, because you're being able to monitor all of these aspects and you're able to contribute to helping your customers reduce the downtime and save a lot more money. So you have to look at energy efficiency in the grand scheme of things. You have to consider all of these other aspects as well. Now, IoT hasn't really affected the motor market as much yet, because motors are just the spinning machines or the rotating machines, and the real focus of IoT has been in the drives, the PLCs, and the electronic components. So we're now seeing more motors with built-in sensors, and a lot of motor suppliers are broadening their operations to benefit from service offerings that boost their company's operations, their customers' operations. And so we're seeing a lot more investment in research and development, and it's been really interesting to see how the successful motor suppliers have grown market share by offering more than just a motor. You haven't really been able to get a profit by selling motors lately, so a lot of evolution has happened. Now, I think that it's important to consider all of these, because when you look at just energy efficiency, like I said, IE4 motors are above and beyond what's required everywhere. And so they're still selling, but they're still a very small part of the market. And so I think that the birth of IoT and the widespread adoption, the growing adoption of it, could really be a headwind to energy efficiency initiatives, because you can only get so efficient, but there's so much more of a market available for being able to reduce the downtime of your customers' products.